Morning, everybody. Fantastic. I think it's top of the hour. It's exciting to see that I think we already have quite an audience. A number of guys have joined. I don't know whether we can double check if everybody on call can be able to unmute to join in and ask questions. But I think if you can just test, if you are able to unmute. If not, just confirm if you are seeing the chat or the Q&A, so that we confirm how we can have the engagement. What we are hoping is that we'll have a very engaging session where we get to talk and answer as many questions as possible on within the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So maybe if you can just try to see if you can initiate a chat on the normal chat. If not, then we try to test if you can do the Q&A. Just confirm if somebody could confirm that. I think especially for the team that is external. Before I hand over to our MC. Anybody could confirm that? Maybe to our team, are you able to probably just double check if you can hear me? I might be also not very audible.
We can hear you.
Okay,
getting
fantastic.
You loud and clear.
Excellent. Chat is working. Kili, fantastic. Thanks. Great. So as we probably engage, it's good to see at least chat will be working. In the previous webinars that we were doing last year, we had to use the Q&A and we couldn't interact quickly. And what we are hoping is that this session will be exciting. It is personalized. It's connected. And what we hope is that we'll get to engage and talk about within the Microsoft ecosystem, within the expected trends in 2026, what to see, and we get to show some live examples about exciting things that you can get to check out in the tech ecosystem. As we also move along, before I hand over to Edwin, and we do probably a round of introductions, I'd want to suggest that since we want to have it as an engagement, I think one of the core feedback that we got last year when we were doing the webinars and the engagements is to try and pace it out so that we have enough time to explain and answer as many questions as you may have. So that's why you see this year we've started off the year. This is our first engagement, and we've started off the year by making it as a 2-hour session. And what we are hoping is that we will get to engage as much as possible. We'll get to answer any questions that you may have. Any items, I know for us to arrange one-on-one sessions, it takes a bit of time. But now that we are all available and we are connected, we hopefully can get to to have a very good engagement. But I'm not the MC. Let me hand over to the MC to kick off the discussion and also to probably do a round of introductions, and then happy to engage. Over to you, Edwin.
All right, thank you very much. Just confirming that you can hear me, Amos. Yeah.
Yes,
mic
100%.
check.
Mic check, very important.
Very important, yes, because using Teams and some of those digital media, sometimes you don't get to really, you could be talking and you're muted. So again, as Amos said, a very, very warm welcome to this particular webinar today. It's we have termed it Sibasi Connect with nonprofits, and the whole idea is basically to have a discussion, around what are the essential Microsoft and AI-powered tech tools that you would need for 2026. So my name is Edwin, and I am the lead here with regards to Microsoft digital transformation, and I'm joined by my colleagues, the ones whom you're going to be seeing talking or trying to moderate this session today. Number one is Amos Washanga. Amos is the CEO here at Sibasi, and he will be also showing us some of those, the bells and whistles with regards to what we're looking forward to in 2026. And we also have, Maureen, who would be, looking at the back end of things just to make sure that, your comments, your chats are being taken care of, even as we are moving in this particular webinar today. So feel welcome. We just want to do a bit of a round of housekeeping. So number one is just to mention that, this session is live and we'll be capturing the highlights. So expect a polished recording delivered to your inbox within 6 business days. And, we'd love really to have an engaging time today, and so we hope that you'll be able to make to be able to give your thoughts, use the Q&A section for you to be able to just drop your questions and your comments, and so that we can make this particular experience very, very valuable to you. Now, we need to preface and mention that this particular webinar is geared towards nonprofits. But if you are here and you're not a nonprofit, we have another session coming up next week. That is going to be geared or focused towards the enterprises. So the link is there, siba.c/connect-enterprise. So you could be able to just note that down and be able to register for that as well. We'll be focusing on enterprises on that particular webinar. But for this one today, is going to be solely on nonprofits. So I think with the housekeeping out of the way, we can then just dive in and see from a nonprofit perspective, what are some of the things that are top of mind for nonprofits. Number one, it's all about how are we able to deliver programs more effectively? How are we able to improve field visibility? How are we able to streamline workflows and use data to maximize impact across diverse and open remote communities? So that we feel is one of the top things or our top of mind when it comes to nonprofits and how they operate. The other bit is around stakeholder management. How do we connect with donors and meet their expectations? How are we able to, improve field visibility as well? Streamline workflows and use data to maximize, impact across, some of the remote communities that we are working with. So the other bit, bit for better stakeholder engagement is also very, very much top in mind. And lastly, with all these things in place, we need to figure out how are we able to make our operations efficient and secure. There's no need to have technology and all these particular operations without you necessarily looking at security. It's very core. So we're looking at how do we strengthen internal systems and secure them, making them modern and cost effective. How do we employ modern and cost-effective tools that will be able to support things around compliance, things around resilience, things around looking at also cost and things around infrastructure constraints. So these are the 3 things that we have seen are top in mind for nonprofits in this particular era. Now, some of the challenges that we have seen coming across are as such. So for number one, we have things around, delivery constraints, right? We have other challenges with regards to staffing. As we're going to go through the slide, we're going to see that most organizations or most staff that are working within nonprofits would mention that they are really stretched beyond capacity with the workload that is there. The other challenge is around donor acquisition and retention. How are we able, to be able to keep the donors coming? How are we able to retain them, within our pipeline so that, we could be able to deliver the programs and the projects that we have in sight. The other thing is around personalized communication. How do we reach individuals contextually, right? The other bit is also around, complex financial environment. As we say, there are a lot of changes that have come in, and especially probably in the last 2 years with regards to funding, right? How are we able to navigate that, still ensuring that we are delivering the projects at the quality and, based on the mission that we had, but also being aware that, financial, the financial constraints, and there's, we need to keep fluid with regards to that. And then lastly, there's things around decision-making efficiency, because data is fragmented. We have departments that are working in silos. How are we able, to change that? So that is what we're looking at as, the things that are happening or the challenges that we have from a non-profit perspective. And the reality is that, we can actually leverage AI to be able to solve some of these challenges. And nonprofits right now can streamline their operations, they can gain valuable insights, they can protect their data, and they can ensure compliance with fundraising sources and regulations. That's the beautiful bit about this particular discussion today. And like I mentioned, with regards to research that has been done, human labor is reaching its limits. 80% of global workers have agreed that they lack enough time/energy to do their work, and 53% of leaders have agreed that productivity must increase. So there's that particular yin and yang of, I do not have enough time, I do not have enough energy, but we still need to be productive. So how are we able to achieve this? Comes in Copilot. So Copilot is basically, a force multiplier. AI is able to do a lot of heavy lifting so that people, do not have to fall between the cracks. And that is a quote by Joel Ramjohn, right? So what we have seen in the past, is that Copilot has gained buzz, but in 2026, the biggest conversation or the biggest discussion is going to be around agents. Every organization processing, and transforming their workflow and their operations using agents, right? And so, like I mentioned, when you look at the trend, before 2023, we used to have knowledge workers. We used to have people who are, knowledgeable in specific areas, and they used to be the ones who were doing the heavy lifting. But then we moved into the period of 2023 to 2025, where the AI buzz started coming in, and then something around Copilot was introduced, right? So you're now able to do drafts for your emails and drafts for your documents much easily. And that is the rise of what most of us would commonly use, your chat GPTs and all that. And that is the season that we have been in. But in 2026, we are seeing now a growing trend that we're talking about now, knowledge workers together with Copilot making what we call agents. And you must be asking yourself, then what are agents, right? And agents basically are, agents exist on a spectrum, right? So different organizations at different stages of their AI transformation. Some are advanced and building next generation of agents with autonomous capabilities, and others are still building out of their AI agents to focus on retrieval and task experience, bringing their knowledge and automation into their experiences. So what we're looking about agents here is, agents use AI to basically automate and execute business processes, working alongside or on behalf of a person or a team or an organization. So that is what we saw a bit with Copilot, but this is almost like, you're trying to either automate fully, or you're trying to assist, or you're getting assistance from AI to be able to carry some of the, what we'd call your mundane or your low-level tasks that are usually repeated and that might not necessarily need a human to be involved. So that's what agents are basically built for. And like you can see on the screen, these basic spectrums, right? We could start with retrieval, we could start with agents that do tasks, and we could also have agents that are advanced, that are autonomous, that are able to carry tasks from end to end without any human intervention. So that is the basic premise of what we are seeing changing in the landscape of 2026 with regards to nonprofits and how they use technology. Now, an example of an agent is, for example, an email agent here that would be receiving, and it is looking into your inbox, right? And when an email comes in, the instruction is to, process the incoming client engagement request, find the right skill set of colleagues, verify existing engagements, and log the engagement into the database. So what it does, it uses a series of knowledge and actions like Power Automate Flow to execute the appropriate actions. And finally, the colleague is assigned, the colleague assigned will receive an email saying that they have been assigned the specific client engagement. So this has a multiple use cases. Let's say, for example, you know, there's a vendor quote that has come in, and or there's a vendor inquiry that has come in. You know, you can have an agent look through that particular inquiry, go into the database and try to figure out, probably they're looking for, you know, when is the next invoicing cycle or something like that. So that you could actually have an agent that would go into the system, get that particular information for you, and respond contextually to this particular email. So that's the low level of what an agent can do, and we're going to explore some of the things that we can be able to do from an advanced level. So in terms of what the problems that agents can address, they fall in two spectrums, right? You can have what we call user-led, you know, problems. Those are problems that, you know, unlock innovation at every level, department, and function. What we're doing here is we are basically applying a new technology to existing problems to be able to optimize, right? The other side of things is, you know, we are trying to create business changing agents. And this is basically trying to apply new technology to new opportunities. So the applications for agents can fall in those two spectrums. Coming back to what we talked about, what are the three things that we're looking at, or an NPO is trying to think about when it comes to delivering impact, right? Number one, they're looking at how can we be able to deliver programs more effectively? How are we able to manage the stakeholder engagement in a more better way? And the last and the final one is looking at how are we able to stay operationally efficient and secure. And this is where the shift, you know, comes in with AI. AI is already transforming nonprofits. So for many organizations, AI is helping them clarify their mission and amplify their impact. It's not just about technology, it's about using data and insights to reach more people and serve communities better. The other bit is around strategic planning. It's getting a boost too. You know, AI can spot trends and help teams make smarter decisions, whether it's optimizing resources or predicting the outcomes of new programs. On the operational side of things, automation is freeing up staff from repetitive tasks, right? That means that more time for work that matters, connecting with constituents, delivering services, and innovating. From a security and privacy point, that has to stay top of mind. AI is helping nonprofits to protect sensitive data and maintain trust with donors, volunteers, and people they serve. Fundraising is another area where AI is shining right now. By analyzing donor behavior and personalizing outreach, organizations are seeing stronger engagement and more sustainable growth. The bottom line here is that AI is already driving transformation, and nonprofits that embrace it are seeing measurable results in efficiency, in impact, and in relationships. So you might be asking yourselves, then how do we become, you know, a frontier nonprofit? Yeah. So let's talk about this. What does it really mean to become a frontier nonprofit, right? The idea isn't just about adopting new technology, right? It's about fundamentally reimagining how your organization operates, right? How does it deliver its mission? How does it engage with staff, supporters, and communities? For nonprofits, becoming frontier means empowering every worker and every volunteer to do more, streamlining program delivery, and modernizing the experience for those you serve. It's also about reaching more supporters and funders and building deeper relationships with those who believe in your mission. And finally, it's about transforming operations, rethinking how you deliver mission-based work, making processes more efficient, and unlocking new opportunities for impact. AI is a catalyst right here. It's helping nonprofits to modernize across these four areas. Number one, we're talking about your staff experience. Number two, we're looking at about your program delivery. Number three, supporter engagement. And number four, we're looking at operational transformation. All right. Now, how do we help you to be able to do this? These are the opportunities that we've talked about, the 4 areas that we've talked about. And the approach majorly is threefold. So first, we're looking at enriching staff experience. Think about how AI can help your team work smarter, reduce burnout, and focus on what matters. Secondly, we're looking at delivering impactful programs. How can AI help you streamline service delivery, reach more people, and measure outcomes more effectively? Third, we're looking at how does, engaging supporters and funders. With AI, you can be able to personalize outreach. You can be able to deepen, the relationships and scale funding across all the efforts, right? Fundraising across all the constituents that you have, right? The donors that you have. And finally, we're looking at transforming nonprofit operations. This is all about modernizing your work flows, improving efficiency, and making your organizations more resilient. Now, the approach is, first of all, you start with AI business solutions that address the specific needs and challenges. And we're going to be looking at this today. So that is almost like the rudimentary base. You pick up the AI business solutions and you're looking at for the specific needs and challenges that you'd want to solve for your organization. Then next, you leverage cloud and AI platforms to, scale your impact and stay agile as your needs evolve. And then at the bottom of it, or at the base of it, is we cannot forget about security. As we are adopting new technology, it's always critical to protect your data, your people, and your mission. So the takeaway here is that becoming a frontier isn't just about adopting technology, but it's about using it strategically to unlock new opportunities and drive lasting change. But having said this, there's one important thing that we have seen as a trend. AI is only as good as the data that is grounded on. 83% of senior business leaders say that their organization's AI adoption would be faster if they had stronger data infrastructure in place. And 69% of top performing companies have implemented data modernization. So I want to pause here for a second, and I don't know if Maureen, you can do a poll and just ask how many organizations have, data infrastructure in place. You have a system that is managing your fundraising. You have a system that is probably looking at grants. You have a system that is probably looking at things around what you do from a requisitions to surrenders to expense management and all that. You could be able just to answer that in the chat, and we see how this particular conversation will evolve, because we have heard about AI and we hear about it as a buzz, but I want to mention here categorically that AI is only as good as the data that it's grounded on. So do you have platforms, do you have infrastructure that are able to hold that data? Now, for us to be able to unlock AI and its potential, there are a couple of things that we need to look at. Number one, we need to come out of silos, right? Disparate silos. So we'd have different departments doing their own thing, having their own processes, and they're not talking to each other. So we need to unify that. The other bit is we need to have clean data, right? We need to be able to remove redundancies and inconsistencies within the data. We might have, a particular department, let's say, for example, communication has a list of donors that they're engaging, while on this other side, the programs teams has also another list of programs that they're engaging on. So those are things that you might want to look at. How are we able to, remove those redundancies and those inconsistencies and have clean data? Because for AI to work well, we would need clean data. And the last but not least is that it needs to be governed. We need to look at security. We need to make sure that, number one, we are compliant. We are compliant to local regulations. We are compliant to international regulations, because if you're working with donors from the international space, then there are regulations with regards to how you handle, data. And I think that is one of the major things that they would look at, even in terms of your reporting and all that, and even in terms of seeing if they can be able to invest in the programs and the mission of your business. So those are the three things that we need to look at, and from a unified data perspective. Number one, we need to bring all those, break down the walls and the silos. Yes? Yes, sorry. I know Maureen published the survey and we've gotten a bit of feedback, but we lost your deck. Oh, really?
Yeah,
so
we are
probably
seeing the deck here. Sorry.
yeah, I think
But
it's
it's
probably because of
interesting.
that.
I think.
Sorry for that.
Yeah, as you're doing
What's the
that,
feedback?
it's very interesting. I think so far we have about 40% saying maybe, 40% yes, and 20% no. So I don't know what maybe more or less means. It would be good to interrogate further, to understand the scenario. But also seeing an earlier poll that we shared around, what's the main day-to-day operational area. Seeing that we have quite a representation from programs, we have a representation from finance, we have operations, we have IT, and other. I'm also not sure other would be what we might have missed. But very interesting. I think probably the chat you could let us know what other or maybe means. I don't know whether you can unmute. I know Teams sometimes has those security features, but interesting feedback, I think, so far. In seeing that a lot of the organizations have already, systems that and that collect and put together the data in readiness for AI. Back to you.
Thanks for that, and sorry for losing the slide. I didn't see that particular transition happening, but yes, this is really good feedback. I'm actually even tempted to see how can we even break that down further to see how many have manual systems vis-a-vis some who have probably invested in some applications that are able to look at their to carry some of their operations. So that would be interesting for us to look at here, even as we continue with our conversation, right? So where did I lose you? Here, we're looking at unlocking AI with unified data. So 3 things that we talked about. Number 1, the data has to be unified. So we are breaking all the walls and all the silos that exist, and that we're bringing that particular data together. We are integrating, and we are making sure that it's available, the data is available, and that there's low latency, meaning that we can be able to generate or up to some real-time analytics and data on it, right? The other bit is that it needs to be clean, and the last one is that it needs to be secure, right? So those are the 3 things that I've just talked about, right? How to be able to activate your entire data estate for AI innovation. Right, so this is how probably most of some of our organizations may look like. You might have your fundraising and communications department talking to one another, but you can also look at on this other side, the M&E team and the field team are talking together, but they are not, all these particular departments are what we call fragmented. And if you're trying to figure out, what's the impact from the program and how are we doing from a fundraising perspective, you're not necessarily able to get that data easily or quickly. And so what that means is that it takes more time. And that is what will probably lead to, the statistics that we're getting, that people are burnt out because, you'd have to do a report every single time, and you'd have to, walk to certain departments that will have to crunch their data. There's a lot of duplication that you'd have to take out and all that. So a lot of time is being spent because of, siloed, departments and siloed operations. So what we'll be advocating for here is how are we able to bring all these things together? And this is where, systems and solutions come into play, such that, fundraising are able to know what is happening with communications. They're able also to know what is happening from a legal and compliance standpoint. It's very good to have, all this data sitting in one particular repository. And then after that, you are able to now put AI on top for it to be able to crunch the data that you're looking at. When you're talking about agents and how they're supposed to work, agents might need to have, context of different departments to be able to respond appropriately, let's say, for example, to an email, or to be able to assist a constituent with regards to their question. So centralizing and having a particular repository, a central repository, is very, very vital for any organization that wants to be an AI frontier, right? And so this is what it would look like, for any business or for any NPO that is optimized, for AI fast process. We're looking at, having all these things together, and we're looking at you'll have improved your efficiency. You would be able to do some cost savings. You'd be able to, enhance transparency and accountability. You're able to improve collaboration across teams. There's a lot more that you're able to do when all this data is sitting together, right? And so with regards to the spectrum of solutions that we have solutions that span across 3 areas that we are looking at here. So for example, you might have solutions that are around your fundraising and stakeholder engagement. There are solutions that are around organizational efficiency and internal operations and looking at how to deliver your programs well, right? So some of the things that we are able to help you out with here is, for example, from the area of productivity. How are we able to collaborate using the normal tools that you have, right? Your Word, your Excel, your SharePoint, those are the basic tools, and then infusing that with data from CRM. For stakeholder engagement, there are things around, e-learning such as Open EDX, where we are able to, put in some content that is able to help our stakeholders to be able to know or be able to, learn about the organization and the programs that we have. The other bit is around workflow automation. This is very, very important, being able to automate some of the key repetitive tasks, doing that using Power Platform, and we'll be able to talk about the applications that come with this, right? The other bit is around finance and HR management. There are solutions around this that are able to help, you manage your accounting. They're able to help you manage your budgeting. They're able to help you manage your procurement and HR, onboarding and leave tracking, right? There's also solutions around monitoring and evaluation and analytics. It's very easy for you to do your data collection at the field level. You're able to do case tracking, beneficiary data and programs delivery framework. So a lot more things that you're able to do from that point. And then the last one is about impact and storytelling. At the end of the day, how are you able to present all this work and the mission of the organization to the people who have helped you to be able to deliver that particular impact? And this is where items like Power BI and AI in Copilot to be able to do, go and fetch what is the impact of what the programs that we've had, right? How are we looking at, from a fundraising perspective or from a cash flow perspective? Are we positive with regards to being able to fulfill our mission in the coming years or in the coming months, depending on the time frame that you're looking at? So this is the continuum of solutions that we are able to offer you as Sibasi. Now, one of the things that as we want to segue into the live demo, like I mentioned, for any AI business solutions, remember that we talked about this as the basic bit, right? You would need to start with your AI business solutions. We're looking at things around your productivity tools. How can you be able to write emails better and faster, right? How are you able to prepare presentations and proposals faster, right? Leveraging all the information that is there within your organization without you necessarily having to walk from desk to desk or from person to person. So basically using your productivity tools. Then on the other bit is now where we go to the systems that hold data. We might have systems that are doing grant management. You have systems that are probably looking at your programs and your projects and how that is going through. We are able to, leverage the tools that are there within the Microsoft stack to be able to, help you to start being AI ready, or for your organization to be an AI frontier. So we'd want to segue now into the best part of this particular conversation today, which is for you to see what are some of the things that you can be able to incorporate and use. And for this particular section, I'd want to invite Amos Washanga.
Fantastic, and thanks. So I think we probably also could do a pause at that particular point and just get to hear so far. Does it make sense? What is your immediate feedback so far? I think there's a poll that came on a bit too early, and that was just that had a tick or X. But basically, it was around are we together? Do you have any immediate questions on what Edwin has presented? As I also just share the screen. Yeah, the ticks show that we are together. Yeah, so when it comes to the demo and what I was hoping, and I think probably Edwin, it would be good to get some feedback around, what do we really focus on? I don't know, Edwin, just confirm if you can see the screen I've shared on my end.
Right. Yes, it should be. Yeah, I'm able to see that. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, so as we probably get into this live demo session, one of the reasons why we're asking about the various teams is just to get an idea of what to focus on. I know from an IT perspective, we might be more around compliance. What are the automations? What can we do in terms of the solutions that we can provide? From a programs and M&E side, we might be more interested in what kind of tools we can use for just management of the various programs or reporting on the solutions. I mean the engagements that we are having in the field. Within operations, it's more around automations, and you have the team that is probably going to the field, and you want to make sure that they have everything that they need, whether it is the facilitation or it is items that they need when going to the field. When you're talking about finance, it's around your reporting and putting together anything around the finance aspect. And also, I think around IT, HR, we don't have any representation from HR. How do you coordinate across various teams? So I think it would be good to, so I see everybody, we are together up to that particular point. And as Edwin was concluding, he mentioned that when we are looking at the various spectrum of solutions, there's a lot that Microsoft provides. If you're looking at this particular space around, Edwin, I think you need to check on the chat, because when I'm sharing the screen, I might not be able to see any feedback. But when you're looking at within the Microsoft 365, I know most of us most likely are on this particular level. If you're not already onboarded on Microsoft 365, as you conclude the webinar, we'll get to show how you can get grants and benefits that come from Microsoft that get to save you on costs in terms of the licensing. What you get, there are some grants that you get in terms of the licenses that will allow you to work with the various tools around your email, your Word for your reporting, Teams, PowerPoint, and so forth, and also working with Excel. The other bit is around the Dynamics 365, where we can get to automate, various aspects, whether it is, how you manage your fundraising, how you manage your projects, delivery, and there's tools such as project operations that go deep into project management, and we've extended, this particular set of tools with a solution called Monivol. Probably team, you can share the link to the Monivol site, where we have a monitoring and evaluation solution that is basically an extension of this. As I conclude this section of the demos, I'll hand over to Edwin to get to show you a live use case of an actual solution that we built off Monivol and customized to fit a particular set of scenario. We also have other tools that helps us to extend, the capabilities that come out of box. So whether it is around Power Apps, Power Automate, the example that Edwin showcased, where you have an email arrives and then you have AI coming in and working as an agent to do some work, then that is handled using Power Automate, does the connection, but behind the scenes, the agent actually is an AI agent. And then we have Power Pages that you can use to create portals and to engage with the outside teams, and Power BI, and of course in device management, you have the team going to the field. You do not want a scenario where beneficiary data is saved on a laptop, and then when it gets lost, information about beneficiaries gets leaked or something like that. So what one of the things that you'll see in our explanation so far is that there is a lot of solutions. There's a lot of possibilities in terms of solutions, whether we're talking about your M&E tools or expense tracking and approvals. There is core finance, accounting. If you're doing data collection in the field, how to report on it, there's a whole set of tools that can be implemented. I'll go off the slides, and we kick off on just we kick off from what we are most likely familiar with. I'll just do this. And we start off from office.com. So when for us, I think most of us who are here on the call, I'm hoping maybe it would be good to get a quick call on how many of us are already on Microsoft 365. I do not want to make an assumption. Edwin, you're able to post that, Maureen? How many of us are already on Microsoft 365? How many of us are not yet onboarded on Microsoft 365? Do we get that quickly out? I'm not sure, Maureen, you're handling that. Maureen, Edwin, anyone? You can hear me. Let's just double check.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, so let's see how many of us. Fantastic. Okay, and probably a follow-up question would be how many of us know about the benefits, that you get from Microsoft? As probably that we are doing that, if you go to siba.c/NPO, it will take you to the portal where, if you are not yet already onboarded, where you can start the process of being onboarded. Previously, as partners, we were able to assist in the onboarding process and submission of your details. But Microsoft changed that with the Microsoft Elevate team. So what you do is just go directly to the site, log in, you'll create an account. It is a 5-minute process where you create an account, a personal account, as the person who's submitting on behalf of the organization. You give the organizational details. Then Microsoft will go and evaluate. They have a team that I think called Good Fund that actually goes and validates the information. And if you are validated, then you get access to the benefits. And there's a lot of benefits that you get. We can't cover all of them during this call, but one of the core benefits would be, and I think this is for the person who's mentioned that you're not already on Microsoft 365. As we end the call, we end the webinar and the engagement. We can also just show you how you can engage with our team to assist with that particular process, and that's the reason why we have Lavenda on the call, who leads that particular team. But basically, when you land on microoffice.com, if you log in, I know most of us are already familiar with this. I know most of us use one of the other chat tools, whether it is Copilot. Some of us use ChatGPT. I think it was first entrant in the market, so most of us are familiar with that. We are also familiar with Gemini or many of the other various tools. And of course, I know that right now, when it comes to, when you're drafting emails and so forth, you most likely start off by, giving Copilot the email, and then you ask it to be able to draft that for you. And that, in this case, previously, if you were on Outlook and you were working on emails, you would only access a very limited functionality when it comes to drafting of emails and responding to emails. But now Microsoft has added Copilot into the core of the email functionality. It's taking a bit of time to open. Let me see if I had one that was already open. Yeah, so if you'll see that now Copilot has been added with a bit more capabilities to summarize, for example, your emails. That used to be part of Copilot, the Pro license, but right now it's available with just your normal Microsoft 365 license. The accounts that I'm using do not have anything extra beyond just the normal Office 365 license. So you're able to get, whether it is getting summarization about your emails or whatever, you're able to do that. And of course, if you want to draft responses to the emails, then you can just select and paste. And I know most of us that is not news to most of us. Let me just pick that. When we go to also the rest of the other apps, I know we are probably familiar with Teams. If you're already on the Microsoft ecosystem, there's a very high likelihood you already use Teams. So there's best practices when it comes to Teams in terms of assisting you as within the organization. We've seen where you do not have, especially now, this is for the IT team, where you have everybody can be able to create a team, and over time, what starts happening is you have too many teams. You can't track, for example, do you have teams that are created for each program? Do you have teams that are created? Or whenever we have a conversation, we just create our own chat. And one of the things that we assist organizations is in setting up your intranet and looking at how everything connects in, making sure that conversations are handled in a certain way so that you do not have loss of information. You have consolidation of documents. That's around document management. And what we use for this is Microsoft Teams and SharePoint. And we configure SharePoint to have not only your intranet, a nice looking landing page where you talk about your impact. So something similar to this, you can have this as your landing page, whatever is the latest message from the ED or from your CEO or management, what are we focusing on for 2026? But besides this, I think one of the core functionalities that we try to assist with on SharePoint is to make sure that you have consolidation of your information so that it all sits in what Edwin was talking about. You do not have fragmented access to the information. Another core thing about this is around security. So you want to make sure that if you have, for example, departments such as HR, there's information that is only HR should be having access to, and you want to have that secured in a certain way so that I'm not on my Copilot chat and I go and ask, please tell me the salaries for everybody in the organization, and then Copilot replies with that information. So that is part of what we look at in terms of the governance, compliance, and making sure that the configuration for your SharePoint, configuration for your teams, gets to actually be configured in a way that you have information being stored in a way that it is logical, in a way that it is easy to find the information, but also that it becomes a day-to-day tool that assists in your conversations. When you talk about intranet, I haven't gone deep into it, but there are other things that you might want to bring in. You want to celebrate birthdays. You want to celebrate that we've launched something, or we've done a project that was concluded so well. The donor is very happy about this. How do you do those kinds of engagements? I've not gone into all that, but that is what you handle within an intranet. And when you do it very well with an EDMS, document management, then there's a lot that you can do within that particular space. And of course, within the automations and what you can do. On the other front, I want to just go into all apps. I know most of us probably use a lot email. If you're already on Office 365, you'll probably use email. You probably are very familiar with Word. Word also has the Copilot now embedded with a bit more functionality. But if you want the full-fledged functionality for Copilot and what it can do in terms of helping you draft reports and finding information within your tenant and so forth, then you need the Copilot Pro license. But the one that comes out of box, in most of the cases, assists in drafting and setting up your reports. Then we have Excel, PowerPoint. Most likely, this first set of tools is what you're familiar with. If you have Copilot Pro, there's other things that you can do within the OneDrive side, where you can get summarization, where it can give you things like podcast kind of, summarization of your reports, and it's fantastic and amazing. I think in the previous, this was last year, end of last year, we were doing a webinar and we showcased how that gets to look like. If you want, we can also jump into that. And I think as we conclude, we'll also ask that you give us feedback on areas that you want us to focus on. These I'm just taking, to highlight all what are the possibilities. The other aspect that we've seen in most organizations is that you get all these many other tools out of box. And in many cases, we've had scenarios where, a team comes and asks that we are trying to just have a simple way of managing tasks. And we want to coordinate these tasks across the team. If you are not aware, you already get Planner. Planner assists you with setting up, Within a team, you collaborate on a set of tasks. If you are doing a project and you want to say this is the set of tasks that you are going to be implementing, Planner assists with that. So you can create simple plans, and there's different types of plans. Before we had something that was called Microsoft Project Online that now is being consolidated into this tool called Planner, where you can set up personal plans, but also you can set up plans that you coordinate within the team. It's very good as a starting point. Where it becomes a bit tricky is when you want to now do reporting and you want to create reports and assist you now to do reports for your donors. And I'll get to show you a quick highlight of how that looks like when you now bring in things like Monivol, the monitoring and evaluation, how you bring in the Power BI for your reporting. Other tools that you might want to experience is around Engage. Engage is one of the core tools that we use on your intranet to drive engagement internally. So, for example, you want to do a kudos or you want to celebrate somebody's birthday and so forth, then Engage brings up that particular perspective. Between Planner and To-Do, sometimes it gets confusing because with Microsoft, you get a number of tools that almost do the same thing. Planner is a much more higher level capacity compared to To-Do. To-Do is what used to come with on your Outlook. I don't know whether I closed that window. Yeah, so To-Do is this one. Before it used, within your Outlook, you have this Microsoft To-Do that basically you could create a set of to-do tasks, or if you go to your email and say you mark an email as you need to do follow-up, then it adds it as a task and you're able to track tasks in one consolidated place. So what Microsoft has been doing in the last year is consolidate this To-Do as well as Planner so that you get a consolidated view of all your tasks in one simple place. As we are moving along, I'm highlighting this in a high level because we don't want to zero in on any one of the tools, and then we do not have time to discuss about the rest of the other items. But I think Edwin, Maureen, you're monitoring hopefully the chat. And I'll get to you. Let me know if I'm over-explaining. I think I've been told sometimes then the other tool is forms. If you're doing data collection and you need a simple tool that you can send out, a survey, you'll see like the feedback form that we'll be sharing is using Microsoft Forms, and you can create a quick survey, send it out to your respondents, whether it is your beneficiaries and so forth, and then you're able to collect data. Whether you can use it also for internal use. Quite an interesting tool in terms of data collection. Microsoft Lists works also with your SharePoint, very interesting, and Whiteboard allows you to create a collaboration tool where you can draw, your standard whiteboard where you can get to discuss and have, various items. Now, I'd want to take a bit of moment because I know most of us are probably not familiar with this tool called Loop. Loop is, if you've worked with a tool called Notion, Microsoft created this tool as a tool that allows you to do the same capabilities on the Microsoft ecosystem. Previously, I think most of us were familiar with a tool called OneNote. It's still there, but Loop allows you to do something very interesting. You're able to do you're able to create, especially if you want to create like a to-do list, or you want to collaborate on a project and you're trying to come up with ideas and you're working with different teams, or you want to even, plan for an event, then Loop allows you to do, you can draft any kind of documents. In fact, when you use them on Microsoft Teams, let me see if I can bring this window that we are using for the chat. Yeah, so you'll have this Loop component. You can bring it up when you want to bring in, you want to have a number of team members, not just submitting, eBoard, fantastic. I'll pick it up next, Collins. Thanks for highlighting that. So within Loop, you are able to actually collaborate with a number of team members and even tag, as you're doing whatever, you can tag people and say, okay, please assist in working on this or give feedback. So when you're collaborating, it's quite an interesting tool in terms of working together with your teams. This is Loop. Now that Collins, you've mentioned eBoard, I'll jump right into that. So within the Microsoft, so eBoard, let me first start off with where do you get to access eBoard? eBoard is your tool that you are going to use to mainly for your board and sharing reports securely with your board. One of the things that you'll notice is if you work with the board or you have teams that are assisting you in implementing various or even advising on how you get to implement various projects and so forth, there's a very high likelihood that the teams that you're working with may not be purely within your organization. They might be teams that they work in other organizations, but they're either doing advisory or they are part of your board. And they need to collaborate with internal teams. So this tool, eBoard, is certified by Microsoft. If you go to eBoard.cloud, let me share this. It allows you to actually, you can set up your organization, you can have sharing of documents and so forth. And as I said, it's certified by Microsoft. So if you go to the Microsoft C/, what is the AppSource? If you're already on the Microsoft ecosystem, you can just go directly on the AppSource or on Teams and just search for eBoard as an app, and it can be added on your organization. It's already certified by Microsoft. So this one is a Microsoft marketplace. It has been reviewed and it does integrate with your internal tools. Now, to get into it, within this particular organization, eBoard has already been embedded. So when I go to my list of apps, I'll see that there is eBoard, and I can just click on it, which takes me now to, this is now mostly for your internal team. One of the key things you'll see with this is that it allows you to, since it's embedded, it will tell your board, how engaged they are based on the various meetings and feedback that they are providing. It will look at reports that you get to share with your board. It will allow you to, schedule meetings. It will allow you to create notes. And the good thing about this tool is that it allows you to work with both your internal team and your board members who may not actually have an email account that is within your organization. So this is the experience for your internal team. Most likely you'll go and access from within Microsoft Teams or within Outlook. The other alternative is you can go directly to eBoard.cloud and access it. So I'd already logged in. I think since I'm on the same browser, I'm already logged in. Then it will pick, and it is the same experience that you get. There's just the change is that where you get to access the menu, and it also has the mobile apps for iPad, the Apple people. Edwin, you use iPad, and what else? iPhones and us the others with all our many other tools. So you can be able to install and have the tool, so you get notifications and so forth. Now, within eBoard, the core functionality is around your meetings and your documents. So you'll have your setup for your calendar. The good thing is that you can sync up your personal calendar, whether it is your Google Calendar, and I should also add is that as much as it's certified by Microsoft, it's also have been reviewed, and you can still use your Google Drive, your Google account. If you're on Google Workspace, you're not restricted to using eBoard, that you can only be a Microsoft, you can only be using it from Microsoft. So one of the things that you'll see is the ability to be able to set up meetings. And when you go into any particular meeting, you have, of course, your overview. You can be able to print it out. It connects with your Zoom, your Teams, or your Google Meet, so that you can be able to start off meetings directly. We just recently, I think end of last year, we were launching the bot. It was under review and testing for some time. The bot now brings in, I've seen a number of AI tools that have come in to try and do note taking and all that. So the bot gives those kinds of capabilities, but also with AI bringing capabilities to get summarization for the meeting, summarizing the meeting itself, or even, as I said, because it's mainly for documents and sharing reports and so forth, you can also get to summarize the reports, or not just to summarize the reports, even bring in this Ask AI, where now you can be able to ask, you're trying to think about, you're preparing for the meeting, and you need to get more information about the reports that have been shared. And the good thing is that it respects permissions, it respects, the current setup that you have within the organization. Other key functionalities that we see in use is around e-signatures. So sometimes you're preparing for this board meeting, but you need internally to have a workflow where, the final report is prepared, let's say, by finance, but it needs to be reviewed by the ED, the executive director or the CEO before it actually gets shared with the board. Then you can be able to just seen a message pop up. Edwin, oh, sorry. Yeah, I was having trouble keeping up with the pace. Oh, sorry. Apologies, Stephen. I don't know whether I lost you at any particular point, or is it network? Any particular part you may want me to go back to? Yeah. Okay, the challenge is that we are not able to talk. Edwin, what do you think? Any part I might need to go back to?
Okay, I think Stephen is just saying, I think in Kenyan terms, peleka pole pole. Yeah, I think
apologies.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but I think it's also something of interest for most of the people here. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Jerry.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a lot of tools, a lot of trying to cover a lot in within the time that we have. So thanks for mentioning that. As I think, let me just rephrase a couple of things that I've mentioned. So eBoard, I started off by talking about within eBoard, it helps connect you and the team, your board or advisors and the teams that you work with to help you achieve whatever programs and operations that you have. So to be able to share and connect with the external teams, as well as you most likely have internal teams that actually do your operations, then you definitely need to have an aspect of preparation of the reports. That's where the documents aspect comes in. So whenever a report has been shared with me, then I'll get to see those particular set of reports. If I have any set of meetings that have been scheduled, then I still get to see this. And one of the things that I was saying around the meetings is that you are able to actually sync up, not only to have board level meetings that you are engaging with, you can connect the upcoming meetings with your personal Google Calendar. And what it does is that it gets to give you a consolidated view of your upcoming meetings from, whether they are personal meetings or they are meetings that are supposed to be for the current organization that you are assisting, either as a board member or as an operator or a knowledge worker that, in terms of what you need to do. If there's any notifications that you have, also appears on your landing section, just saying that there's something either you need to approve, there's a report, there's a request or a query that was raised by a board member. You are, for example, in finance, and there was a query that was raised or a task that you were assigned that you need to action. The board came up with a certain action point, and I'll get to show you where that the action points actually get to be tagged. Then you'll see that within your needs, your attention section. Besides this is just your overview, the landing section. I'll go into the core of what eBoard actually assists with, which is setting up your meetings. So you can be able to just create meetings from scratch, but I'll go into this. And what I was saying is that eBoard works with your Google Meet, your Zoom, or your Microsoft Teams. So basically, when you set up meetings, you can be able to say that this meeting is actually being held online. And when you just set that up, then you're able to just quickly start the meeting from here. And what it does is that it connects to your teams and activates, and allows now people to join. And besides that, I was just saying, end of last year, we released the bot. The bot now comes in similar to how we are seeing a lot of AI tools. I think Edwin might have mentioned it. I don't know whether you picked it up, but in terms of governance, you need to try and make sure that information sits within your organization. So whenever you go and see another fancy AI tool and you start using it and you're giving it information. I saw somebody recently saying that, I don't know whether you've seen this trend on Facebook. I don't know whether you use Facebook or you use TikTok, I don't know. I was told depending on the age. But if you're coming in from the Facebook era, there has been a trend that has been people sharing I don't know what it's called. It's a photo of you in your workplace based on whatever questions that you normally ask the AI tools. And somebody was saying, okay, these guys just created an easy way to get all our photos. So now they can be able to pinpoint there's this guy who asks these questions and look like this. So whenever they see another photo somewhere, so now taking that context, basically think about it from this perspective. Every meeting that you're joining, there's an AI tool that is joining also with you, and you're discussing sometimes internal information that should not be leaked, and you're talking about what you're going to do about certain beneficiaries. You're talking about how we are going to make the report to some donors or whatever. And these tools are summarizing this information, and then it sends out an email to everybody who joined or didn't join that meeting and says, Amos said this particular item. So in that particular perspective, one of the things that we've been advising organizations is that you need to start looking at compliance and governance from not just the way before we used to worry about, are you being hacked on your email and so forth, making sure that your information sits within the organization. And that's where eBoard comes in, because then the bot from eBoard is sitting within your organization, your information sits. So even if it is doing your note taking, even if it is doing your summarization and so forth, it is within the organization. It does not allow information to actually leak out. I mentioned that, for your board or even for yourself, you're getting busier by the day. You need to be able, and that's one of the things that we were saying for the 2026 trend, is that we're using more and more AI to help us work faster, to help us, some of the tasks AI gets to do on your behalf. So in this case, being able to just summarize what a meeting is about, or even once I get into to see the meeting, there might be reports that have been shared. There might be information that I need to get, about. So whether it is the documents that have been shared for the specific meeting, I can be able to ask AI, to give me more information about it. And then I mentioned something that is interesting around preparation for these meetings. So when you're preparing for your board meeting, and I know most of us either have the board meetings earlier in the year or later, or within the first quarter, you might have, whether you're reporting for your previous year or you're strategizing on how you're going to be operating the new year. Most likely, there would be tasks that you would be assigned, so that gets to sit here. But also, as you're preparing for these meetings, you have certain, you've created a report, but you also need to make sure that it gets signed off by the ED. So as you're preparing these various, and you might have a set of reports, then it brings in the e-signatures capabilities, where you're able to upload your reports and then submit them for e-signing, so that you have a place where you have all the approvals that you have for various reports, so that when they are shared with the board, you're sure that they have been reviewed and approved internally. I don't know whether there is any question up to what I've talked about. I think I need to take pauses and just make sure, because I know this might be a lot of information, but we still have, we want to make sure that you get as much benefit from this engagement. Are we good to go? Maybe a thumbs up would be, then I can move on to the next sections around business reporting and your committees and so forth. A thumbs up would help to know that I'm okay to proceed. Stephen, Collins, and Jerry.
I'm seeing the thumbs ups coming.
Oh, okay. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks. Then
right.
The other bit is around business reports. So business reports, what it does is that, you have, let's say you're using Power BI or you're using Click or whatever the tool that you're using for your reporting, or you have reports, let's say your annual report that has been very well summarized and published, then you're also able to publish that so that your board and internal teams are able to access those reports in a centralized way. So let's say, for example, we have a finance report, then once you publish it, then it's available for your teams. So this is an example of a finance report. I will get to see a Power BI showcase, I think at a later point, where we get to show you a live scenario where there's a report that we've done that is quite fancy in terms of how you get to report. But basically with this, I get my overall analysis. I can be able to go, this one looks like it's a lot more commercial, but I think just to bring in the idea that you can have your nice looking Power BI reports embedded for your board, so that they can be able to actually just come in and filter out the information and get to see reports from internal teams being reported directly to the board, so that by the time you're coming in for the meeting, or even if they need consistent access. And sometimes we say it's not just the board. Even for internal teams, you have, there's a team that is in the field. There's a lot of data that is probably being collected. How do you get to make sure that that data is easily transferred to your M&E team to create reports that then can be used by your leadership teams to decide on, do we extend the program, how do we report back to the donor, and so forth. So these kinds of reports can be embedded within your within eBoard, and you decide on how do we what kind of reports that we want to do. So these are a sample of a different reports that shows you opportunities, grants, and so forth. But this is the end result. It's what we get to see shared with the board. Or shared with the internal teams, depending on how you're using the solution. Another aspect is around, we've seen in most organizations, not just at the board level, but also within your leadership, you have various teams that probably meet as committees to decide and make decisions on what we need to do next. So within eBoard, then you are able to do what we call groups, and you can set up, when you set up a group, basically you can set up one as a committee, finance committee, you can have another one for marketing, bring in who are the various members, and basically it just helps when you create a meeting for the committee, every person within the committee gets a notification. When you upload documents for the committee, every person within that particular committee gets notified, and so forth. And it also, now for IT and governance, you do not need like somebody technical to go and be doing the giving access. Sometimes you want to do a due diligence evaluation, you want to do the board evaluation, and so forth. Within your organization, you'll specify who needs access to manage, either whether it is your organizational members or who needs access to manage your your organizational settings. And in this, then you get capabilities, whether it comes from the member side, you have the capability to give access and manage your members, decide who are supposed to be admins. Or on the other side, you are also able to manage the organization settings, everything around, like if you enable due diligence, then you can set up that particular aspect. I've gone through the most used functionalities. I've mentioned about, I think the first bit, sorry, I've just seen something pop up. I think coordinating is a bit of a problem, challenges. I think, okay, let me just summarize what I've done, and then Edwin, you can run through any particular questions or items that you might want to highlight. So what I've gone through is just what we see for a day-to-day usage for eBoard, where the core becoming your meetings. The other aspect is being able to set up a calendar, and as I mentioned, you can be able to sync up your calendar. I didn't get to showcase this, but basically on your profile, you can go and say, I want to connect to my Google account. You have calendars, you want to see birthdays and everything that you have on your personal calendar. It gets to bring that in. One of the things that we should add is that it doesn't add that to the entire organization, that is personal, but also you can, when you create meetings on this other side, it syncs back to your standard calendars, whether it is your Microsoft 365 calendar or your Google calendar, so that you're able to see that. When you're setting up their meetings, you can be able to set them up as Teams meetings if you're doing online, Zoom meetings, or you can be able to set them up as Google Meet meetings. Within meetings, you can be able to upload reports, you can be able to share those reports, and you might want actually to have approvals. So you bring in the aspect of e-signing, and that allows you to have consolidation of all your information around the meetings. And when you have different people assign tasks, then those tasks land on their tasks, personal tasks, they get notified, and as they are ticking off on the dashboard, it gets to summarize what do you have outstanding, what do you have ongoing. And as an organization, of course, you get now the reports about how management of day-to-day tasks is being done or through eBoard. And then the other aspect that I talked about is the documents. Once you have the centralized section for all your documents, or you can create them in folders, or whenever you have documents uploaded within a meeting, then you get what we call board packs. So you can go and see there's board packs that are from a folder, there's board packs that are created from a meeting. You get to see all of that in one particular place. And finally, I talked about groups, but also talked about being able to publish reports that that are internal, and then they become available for your board, for your internal teams, and you can be able to quickly, get to see status of ongoing engagements, and what information you would want to share. I'll pause there. I don't know the set of questions that might have come up.
Thanks, Amos. There's one question that is coming here from David Miner, and David is asking, can the Power BI report be integrated with external systems used within the organization through APIs?
Okay, is that okay? You could have answered, but it's fine. Thanks, David. Yes, 100%, 100%. We've not even gone into the nitty-gritties of what you can do with Power BI. There's a lot. But basically, if you have data, we've done connecting Power BI to your ERP, whether it's a Microsoft or non-Microsoft tool. We've done connecting that with CRM systems. We've done connecting that with just your normal Excels. I think there's a project that we were doing in Somalia for the Somali Cash Consortium, and the project involved data that was coming from telcos. It was cash disbursements. And the data was coming in from telcos using Excel. So as we received those Excel documents, you just basically add it to a SharePoint folder, and we had already automated the entire process of how to, once a new Excel has been dropped, it picks up that and then updates the dashboard. So yes, 100%. You can connect Power BI. I'm yet to come to a scenario where there's a very unique API that we can connect to. So far, I think in all we've handled SAP, we've handled very different types of data sources. So yes, 100%, David, you can connect Power BI with a lot of tools.
All right. Are you up for another one?
Yeah. 100%. That's the reason we're on the call.
Yeah. So Jerry Mwangi is asking, is it possible to transfer from another ERP, or do you have to start from scratch? So I don't know if she's talking about the ERP migration or also the Power BI or reporting stuff. I don't know, because I think Jerry, you've written here, sorry if that sounds like the same question. I don't think it's the same. You're talking about migration. Thank you for the clarification. Yeah, so she's talking about migration. Do you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, 100%. Thanks, Jerry, for bringing that up. I know we haven't gone into what you can do with Dynamics, Business Central, Dynamics, 365. There's a lot. I think that is the next segment I want to jump into. But as you've asked, yes, you can. We've had organizations that start off with the basic Excel. That is where your data is, and we are able to migrate that into Dynamics. We have organizations that start off from Xero, Sage, SAP, and we can be able to actually migrate, and we have done those kinds of migrations. And now that you've mentioned ERP, let me just open it up so that I think for context for all of us to get an idea of what ERP really is. So this is one of the solutions, Dynamics 365. Again, all of these solutions, you access them from our starting page. You remember we started off by going to Microsoft, the landing section where you have your chat. When you come from the chat, you have apps here. And one of the solutions, if it is enabled on your tenant, you'll get this solution that is called Business Central. So Dynamics 365 Business Central gives you a lot of capabilities when it comes to ERP. Stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. And basically, I'm coming from a background where your core is, almost all organizations we operate from a point where we are looking at finance. If you're a non-profit, you still need to know how much are we expecting to get from donors, how much are we spending on the projects, where do we need to either remit like pay and other taxes for government, what is the organizational structure in terms of the what we call the chart of accounts. And I think it starts from that aspect of finance, but then there's other items. So when I talked about tracking your grants, then you need to know who are our donors, what are the commitments that have been done? What are ongoing proposals that we have submitted, which is more of a CRM, a relationship management aspect. The other key area about the Dynamics Business Central is that it goes into the other side where you're looking at your staff, your HR, looking at project implementation and just looking at costs against donor commitments, against the particular donor who's funding that particular, so that you can create reports that tell you as an organization, do you have the right, in terms of the, and I think especially for donors, you'd really want to make sure that you're on track on when you're asked about how much was spent on actual tasks on the project versus what was spent on operations versus what, and I think in all the projects, different donors will have their requirements on what that looks like. So out of box, the ERP comes with finance, cash management, sales. Sales is what we change for non-profits, and I'll get to show you a non-profit version of the ERP. But sales is, income, where you manage your customers, where you manage the process of whatever the process that you use for example, some donors will tell you, okay, we have made commitments, and we need you to be submitting the reports for, it's a 3-year commitment. Every year submit the report for how you have used the funds, but also send us invoices so that we're able to track what we have disbursed. So that is a handle around sales. You also want to track, if you're working with multiple vendors, aging, there's some vendors that you need to pay them. The commitment is within 30 days, 180 days, and so forth. Then the purchasing side is also there. But besides this, okay, let me just move on. But basically, it has the landing page that has your core modules. You can get quick reports, and we can customize that. Or you can go in, and there are many different modules. So what we do, because it has a lot of capabilities, is we look at the different personas and we personalize, so that if your core task is just working with vendors, then you don't go in and see all of this information. We just make sure that you can see only the information that is relating to you. So whether it is management of your chat, of your assets, management of your disbursements, you have the teams that are going to the field and they need to be given cash, or you need to procure. All of that is what the ERP does, basically connecting your entire organization so that you are able to have a consolidated place where you have all your information, and you can be able to quickly create reports, or in an easy way, automating processes such as approvals. You'll say, like, for example, whenever we are buying something that is above 50,000 shillings, it needs to be approved by the finance manager. If it is above 1 million, it needs to be approved if it is above a certain amount. So getting all those processes defined, that is what the ERP does. This version is a commercial version. You'll see manufacturing and inventory and so forth. Then we have, let me see if I can get it. We have this version that is, this is now customization. The one that I was showing, out-of-box functionality that you get to use, that you get from Microsoft just by getting the core ERP. And as now teams that work with the solution is, we now get to customize against your core functionality. And we built some modules that assist you for common things that you do within the nonprofit, within your nonprofit. So you'll see that this is a bit slightly different organized. So we have your finance, have journals, whatnot, and then we start having things like funds management, which brings in information about giving out of vouchers, approvals, and so forth. So this gives petty cash management and so forth. All of that is internal, in terms of how you get to manage the funds. We also have things like reporting that has been set up, where you're able to pick up information that relates to like if you want to track any expense, you want to know, is it related to which project, it's related to which donor. That comes as part of this customization that we do on the Dynamics 365 Business Central. So going back, I think, to the question, and so that I'm seeing we are at almost at 11:30, and I know there is something else that I'd want to show you. It's possible to migrate from your existing any existing ERP, whether it is from your Excel, or it is as solutions such as Xero and so forth, and bring you to the Microsoft ecosystem. There are other items if you'd want us to really go into a deep dive into the ERP, looking at processes, how it integrates with your Word, with your Outlook and so forth, you can let us know, and then probably we'll plan a session where we do a deep dive into how the ERP works and how it assists your organization. But basically, it brings together your entire organization into a way that you can track it from a finance perspective, how funds are being transferred across the organization, and connecting you, for example, with donor information, connecting with your vendor information. What you get out of box most likely will not work for your scenario, especially within the non-profit. And that's where we come in to customize and make sure that it works for your particular scenario. I don't know whether that gives an overview and also answers in a long way the question that Njeri, you had asked.
Yes, see a thumbs up from, I'm supposed to get it from Jerry. Thank you very much. Yes, I think even as we continue, I just want to preface for each and every one of us on the call today that there's a lot of solutions that we could be able to showcase today, and that 2 hours is not going to be enough for that. And I think at the end of this particular conversation, we would want to run a poll and just ask, what do you want to see on the next webinar? What do you want us to have a deep dive on? Because like I'm saying, there's a lot that we could showcase from an eBoard perspective or from an ERP perspective, and some of the tools that we have, and I know that would be of good service to you. So please feel free to just share on the chat and just say, I would be interested to see this on the next webinar, and we'll be able to share that. Amos, before you segue into the next one, there's a question here from David Miner, and David Miner is asking: Is the eBoard is eBoard supported on all M365 plans, including M365 for nonprofits? That's the free version one. So I think probably explain how that works.
Yes, 100%. So eBoard can be installed into any Microsoft 365 plan. It is not dependent on the Microsoft license. It has its own licensing, which is different. I think for nonprofits, there's a special discount license. If you go to eBoard.cloud, you'll see the nonprofit pricing. But basically, it can be embedded and works. And as I said, it's not even locked to Microsoft only. For organizations that you've not even onboarded on the Microsoft side, you can also use it within Google Workspace, or even if you're not yet onboarded, but you need to communicate with your donors, you can still start immediately. So yes, it works with any Microsoft 365 plan, but not just that. It works in any scenario and any particular tools that you actually use on a day-to-day. Great, thanks so much. I think it's been engaging enough up to this particular point. I was hoping I could go into a bit more on the IT side, and that's why I had this open to get to talk about some things around how you do your management and so forth. But I'm realizing because of time, I want to keep the conversation on the business side and just look at the solutions that fit your particular scenario. If you would want us to go into a deep dive into, how do you manage your tenant? How do you secure your tenant? How do you manage devices and devices and make sure that, if somebody loses their phone, your beneficiary data does not get lost? How do you get to do that? If you'd want us to go into a little bit more detail on that, just let us know, and we'll organize a different session for this. I'll highlight one more solution because I see we just have 30 minutes left, and I want to leave still a bit of room for the Q&A, and also get to show you something very interesting on what you can do with Power BI and what you can do with the other bits. So I'll just highlight, I think, just two. This one I'll do very quickly. You'll allow me so that I can just quickly. I mentioned the M&E. I've been talking about it for a while. Moneyball and what you can do. So there's a solution for grants management. This is built off Moneyball. I think we mentioned this. If you go to moneyball.com, you'll get to see a bit more details about what is there. But basically, as that being the core, then you get to see this. I won't go into the nitty-gritties of, within grant management, you might be having these particular sets of modules, or you might have, outcomes, management, where you probably the way you do your outcomes, you have certain delivery frameworks, whatever the framework that you use, results-based framework and so forth. There's what I think the M&E guys understand, some of those terms. These are things that you can configure and get embedded within depending on how your reporting looks like. Or if you are actually handling your fundraising, then you also can the same tool, the Monivol, based on the Microsoft ecosystem, also gives you, where you can see your donor commitments, where you can see any awards and so forth, and get to track that. I'll leave this one. I'll ask Edwin when I just conclude with the last solution that I'll quickly highlight. Edwin can get to show you how now this more or less connects to give you your reporting aspect. But as we've said, again, you feel free to just give us the feedback and say you'd want us to dive deeper into any particular solution. I'll highlight this as the last solution, which is a solution called Factorio. Factorio is your pure HR solution. So it allows you to do things to do with your, for example, clock in, clock out, leave tracking, timesheets, and so forth. So one of the things is that this is now my end view as one of the team members. So as staff, I'll come in and I'll get to see there's the first section, the home inbox and the personal, that is available to everybody. So whether it is time tracking, time off, and so forth. You also have this section where you can give feedback about what is happening. But we'll be talking about AI, I think, a bit in this particular conversation. And I'd want, let me just confirm if I need to refresh. We've been talking about AI and what you can do with AI and so forth. So this particular solution, one of the interesting things you can do, and especially now, I know in the feedback, we had 0 members who are in HR, but I know HR is a common function in most of the organizations. So I know this is something that you'd want to highlight to your team. In this case, if you want to, there's quick questions: who's out of office today? Or even from HR is to ask who is taking the most leave. This gives that capability. I don't know whether that was a good example because we didn't have HR represented. But yeah, so if HR want to get information about who's in, who's not in, quickly through AI, or even being able to create a set of reports, there's a lot of talent management reports, getting to do, your balance scorecard and all these other aspects when it comes to team management. This solution is a fantastic one when it comes to that particular sector. I see it's 11:30. I'd want to pause that particular point and then hand over now back to you, Edwin, so that you can showcase what I just quickly mentioned on, what else can we be able to do in this particular sector, and what have we done before that would be of interest to all of us on the call. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Amos. I know from the breadth and the length of solutions that we have at Sibasi, there's a lot that we could be able to show for today. But yeah, we just want to try and stay within the time also that was stipulated. And again, I want to say thank you so much for taking time to join this particular webinar. I don't know if you can see my screen, so can I just get a thumbs up in terms of if you can see the screen? All right. Thank you. So with regards to what Amos talked about in terms of what you're able to do from a Power BI perspective, this is a case study. So this is one of our clients that have given us permission to be able to showcase this particular report. This client is Kenya Wildlife Conservancies Association. So they manage all the conservancies within Kenya. And their case was the fact that they had, all this particular information that you're looking at the screen in different Excel sheets, right? It used to take them a lot of time to be able to get this metrics because they needed to get the metrics that you're seeing here on what we call a state of conservancies report that needs to be shared with the stakeholders and the donors and all that. So when they came to us, what we're able to do for them from a Monivol perspective based off of the Microsoft platform is to consolidate all that data together for us to see what we are seeing here. So you are able to see all this information at the click of a button, at a glance, and all this information information is coming from different areas, and we're going to showcase that in a bit. But if I come here and click on this particular menu, right, this particular report is the one that I want to highlight on. This is one of the reports that used to take them a lot of time to be able to generate, because it's one that they need to generate almost, I think it's probably yearly, in terms of where are we, what are we doing in terms of the programs and all that. So the best thing about this is that all this data is sitting in with different departments, right? So there's people who are handling the conservancies, there's people who are handling the programs, there's people who are handling the funding and all that. And imagine just trying to get all that data from Excel sheets and from reports that have been done and trying to collate that into one. What is good about this is that that data is sitting in one particular database right now, and you are able to generate this particular report at the click of a button. I can tell you that they have saved weeks on trying to be able to do these reports with the graphics, with the annotations, as in everything. They can actually just be able to come in and download this particular report and probably just go and embed something on it and just send it as is. So that is one of the benefits of this. But there's some other things that might be of importance to some of the stakeholders here. I see we have a lot of people who are coming in from the programs or an M&E department. You'd want to see the health of your projects. How are you doing from a project perspective, or how are you doing from a resource mobilization perspective? All that data can now feed into this particular one report. Of course, with this particular report, depending on your organization and how it works, we can be able to configure security around it. So remember that we were talking about a couple of things. Number one, we needed unified data. Number two, we needed clean data. Number three, we needed to be able to govern the access to that data. So those are things that we are able to do. From a resource mobilization perspective, this is almost like it's a chart that you can be able to see how are we doing from a resource mobilization perspective. So this is just a snapshot. We could take some more time and just dive deep into what is available here. But these are some of the reports that used to take them a lot of time to be able to do. But right now they're able to generate that at the click of a button. But just to show you the back end of how that looks like, this is where all that data is. And like I said, all these were different departments having their own things. Let me explain from a conservancy perspective. So there's one Excel sheet that was handling all the conservancies that are in Kenya. There's another Excel sheet that handles all the conservancies that are members of KWCA. So those were put as separate Excel sheets. So being able to synchronize that Excel sheet was a menace, because you have to do your VLOOKUPs and all that. It takes a lot of time to be able to figure out what is the latest, what is the number, the accurate number of conservancies that are members of KWCA as of now. So what this particular system allows them to do is you are able to get, number one, you're feeding data into one particular place, and number two, you're able to enrich that data here, and you're able to get real-time statistics on that. So you're able to see things around, that you can able to come here and filter with regards to a couple of things. So by conservancy type, and it's able to categorize that for you. So it's almost like the Excel look and feel. You're able to export this to Excel. So it has all those particular neat features that if you want to go and do this further, you can actually be able to export that and probably work on it, or probably build some pivot tables if you're not, you probably want to extend on what has already been showcased on the Power BI bit. But this is one thing that we wanted to be able to showcase for you. And this comes as part of the grants. I think I saw about 63% of people do not not aware of all the benefits that come with with Microsoft, right? So part of what you get is licenses to be able to spin up this from a Monifor perspective, right? The back end of it. So you can get up to 10 licenses for free for the user, so that you can be able to build something like this and move away from the Excel and the manual databases that you might be holding. So that's just a brief snapshot. So you can be able to look at that. You can be able to, now they are seeing data about their landscapes. You can come in and look at your funding tracker. How are we doing with regards to that? Coming here and reach the data as it is. You can come and look at things around your strategic plan. What are your annual work plans? And I think if I just come back here, and I think I need to show that how that would look like, because it's also good to appreciate how the data looks like and how it is stored. Remember, all this data was sitting in different spaces, right? So here you are able, from an annual work plan perspective, to see how are we doing in terms of, kind of like the budgeted versus the secured amount for the goals that we have. You're able to break that down further into, the various areas of the work plan. Right? So that these are things that you're now able to do because you have all your data unified in one particular place. You can be able to have granular reporting like what you are seeing on the screen. So I think this is of benefit, especially to NPOs that are trying to track how are they doing from a fundraising perspective, how are they doing from an impact perspective. You are able to now, once you have that data, you're able to crunch that very quickly. And remember, as we mentioned, once you have your data unified, cleaned, and nicely governed, then when you put AI on top of that, you are now able to accelerate how you're working as an organization. So that's the long and short of that. So I just wanted us to now go back just to the presentation and just try and wrap this up so that we leave some time for the Q&A. And I hope my presentation is on. Amos, you can just confirm for me.
Yes, 100%.
Awesome. So we say that for 2026, what are we expecting? We've heard about the buzz on Copilot and all that. The new trend is going to be around agents, right? Agents is going to be the new thing. And for us to have agents working in our organization, we have mentioned that AI is only as good as the data that it is grounded on. So for those who may not necessarily have systems already done, or for those who have siloed systems, this is now a good opportunity for us to have a discussion on how can we unify that particular data, because that segues into the point that I talked about. How can we get you back to unified, clean, and governed data that now makes your business to be able to be an AI frontier? So the question here would ask is, where are you on this particular journey? Yeah, are you already starting to use the AI tools, or do you have any agents that are assisting you in some of these areas, or have you already gotten, because different organizations who are attending this particular webinar today might be in different places in the journey, and we want to say that we are here to support you. We at Sibasi, we usually call ourselves an innovative AI native technology company that is focused on delivering practical, high-impact technology for today's digital era. We are driven by a passion for excellence and quality, providing solutions at speeds of modern organizations require, right? Everything we do is geared towards empowering you, our client, and helping you to achieve success and have an impact. And that is basically within our name itself, services and solutions invested and integrated into your business for you to achieve success and have an impact. All that we have talked about today is basically geared within the portfolio that we have within our solution stack. So number one, we have what we call the intelligent business platforms, which now deal with what Amos has talked about, your board management, things around smart Memo, how do you communicate internally well, things around your CRM, being able to capture your constituent data, fundraising data, and all that, things around M&E, and all this has been built with AI native in it. The next bit is Microsoft digital transformation. Here we're just looking at how do we enable you as an organization to leverage as much of the Microsoft infrastructure as possible. So that will go into enterprise systems, your financial system. We're looking at productivity, things around your email, things around Copilot that we've talked about today, things around business process automation like you've seen Monifor, right, build on top of our Power Platform, as well as things around your robotic and data analytics. And lastly, we also come in the place where we can be able to advise you on the things that you need to do with your infrastructure. So for example, if you have an ERP and you need to do Power BI, we can come and do an assessment and see how are you able to do that. I think Jerry asked about migration. That would fall into this particular bit. We would now consult and see how are we able to get you onto the system that you're looking to use. If you're looking to do any assessment from a cybersecurity perspective, that is also where we come in. And you would ask why Sibasi? We help organizations to be able to reduce their costs, actually up to by 40%. We make sure that you have an uptime of 99%. 0.9%. We make sure that we can be able to respond to your queries in under 15 minutes. And because we have served a lot of NPOs, we have experience in this particular space. So you'd ask yourself, where do we go from here? I think the idea would be let's have a discussion, and that is what we want to open right now. Let's identify the needs that you have, and if you're already not, or if you're not on the NPO, utilizing the Microsoft NPO offers, we'll be able to have a conversation and help you set up that. Then now we get to the next bit where we help you to now be able to, push those particular implementations to the next level. So again, I want to say thank you very much for taking time to hear us and to see the things that we are offering. Of course, like I mentioned, time is not enough for us to go into each and every of those solutions, but I think at this particular juncture, like I mentioned, we need to now hear back from you. Number one, what do you think about what we've been able to showcase? Number two, what would you like to hear more from us about, in terms of the next webinar? What should we have in mind, or what should we have a deep dive on? It would be very, very good for us to have that so that we can be able to curate a session that is able to give you more information and help you to make a decision with regards to how you can be an AI frontier organization. So thank you very much. I think we'd open the floor up to any questions. I don't know, Amos, do you see anything on the charts?
Nothing yet, but yeah, thank you so much for that conclusion. So I think we have about 15 minutes left. It would be good to now hear your feedback. You can directly go on the form to give any feedback that you may have. If you have any particular solution that you want us to look into, I think, Edwin, if we just go to the next slide, there's contacts on where you can get to reach us. I think if you want phone number, yeah. So if you, the number that will most likely get assistance with is the 0780 Sibasi, which is 0780 742274. That will go to the office line. My contact, I think, this will reach me. Sometimes you might not reach me, but even if I don't pick, there's always somebody who will be available. Let me just share that on the chat. 402052. In case you have a particular question that you would want directly directed at me. But yes, you can just try to contact me. Like right now, when we're in such a meeting, I may not be able to pick, but it will always get you'll always get somebody to respond, or when I get an opportunity, I'll always feedback. I think if you have any specific areas like you'd want specifically tailored to Edwin, just send to the email success@Sibasi. It will be redirected to the right person. We have a team always on standby to assist. I think 24/7. There's a question on, do you offer trainings on the Microsoft 365 apps? Yes, we do that. We do that a lot. I think last year we did quite a number. We didn't even go into the nitty-gritties, but for example, for Power BI, we have what we call Dashboard in a Day that is coming up. I think, Maureen, if you can share the link. That one, we're one of the certified teams, I think in the East African community, that are certified to do Power, it's called Dashboard in a Day. So we are having one, I think, on 26th of this month. Maureen is a lead for that training. But Power BI as a dedicated training, yes, we do. I think for staff, there's some things that I was going over. On Microsoft 365, you get Loop, you get. Whenever we do any migration, that is one of the things that we do in terms of onboarding and making sure you're maximizing on what you get. If we are associated as your partner, we are also able to, Microsoft gives us a summary report of which tools you're using across the organization. So we can always tailor-make and just advise, okay, as an organization, most of your teams are already comfortable with Outlook. The next thing would be for us to look at OneDrive, SharePoint, and so forth. So we can be able to tell that. If you're not associated, you can just let us know which areas your teams might need walkthroughs and trainings, whether it is as basic as from the emails and productivity tools, or even the complex side of setting up Power Automate and Power BI reporting, or even using advanced Excel. I think I didn't mention the VLOOKUPs and whatnot. We do that. You should check out the website, Sibasi.academy, the one that Maureen has shared. We have a lot of community engagement sessions. I think every Thursday we have at the Power BI team meets, has a call that they do a walkthrough. There's a WhatsApp chat where we give updates about upcoming sessions. You might want to also check out that. With the Microsoft team, we are one of the AI champion for nonprofits teams. We work very closely with a team that is called Microsoft Elevate, that they are the dedicated team that assists nonprofits. So even if you have questions, you have challenges with your tenant or whatever, and you'd want to escalate those, we can also be able to organize to assist with that particular sector. I think in the nonprofit space, we are specialists. Yes, so that was on do you offer trainings. I hope David, we should be good. You've managed to see this. I see Edwin, you want to share something else. Great.
Yes, thanks, Amos, for that. The other thing that I just wanted to highlight, right, is here. Let me just see if I can copy this and paste probably in the chart. Just see copy and let's see here. Is that? So wanted just to highlight on some of the benefits that you get, as a nonprofit, right? So from a productivity perspective, you usually get up to 300 users for free. This is on Business Basic, and this is basically for you to be able to access your email and Office applications, but online. So this is usually kind of like your entrant license, right? So if you just want your basic email and you'd want to be able to access, Office applications online, this is the email for you to. This is the plan for you to go for, right? That is the Business Basic, right? Then we have your Business Premium. So this one is also discounted, right? I think most if not all of the licenses are actually discounted from the retail price up to 75%. So a nonprofit get to, you get that stellar grade, application, but at a price that is, that allows you to be able to deliver that particular impact. So that is good for you to be able to look at that. So I wanted to highlight this. So this is where most organizations would start and then grow as needed. So there's another license in here with regards to business standard that now allows you to be able to have your email and Office applications on your PC. The other bit is, of course, we've talked about Copilot. Yeah, so there's a Copilot offering here as well, and you can get Copilot for the different Dynamics, applications. Like Amos mentioned, there are tailored applications that we get to configure for NPOs. So for example, the sales one, we can be able to configure that to be able to do your fundraising and all that. So if you want Copilot that is specifically contextual to that application, then there's those Copilots that are running for that. But the M365 Copilot is there. You can see the pricing on there. The other bit that I wanted to highlight is the number of grants you get here, up to 50 licenses available for Windows 11 Professional. So I think this is good that no NPO should be running on cracked software, right? You can be able to take care to take advantage of this particular grant for yourself. We've talked about Power BI. The Power BI licenses are here as well. Of course, Power BI desktop is free, but then if you want to collaborate and share those particular reports, you get to, get a license for $3 per user per month, right? So there's that. The other bit that is usually important that we've seen for NPOs is things around Azure grants. So let's say, for example, you have a workload that you need to spin off a server. You'd want to start, let's say, for example, you'd wanted to host an application on a server. You could be able to actually take advantage of this particular grant. This is $2,000 for a year. So you can be able to use this for your proof of concept or proof of value demonstrations internally, so that you can be able to now, probably build a case for you to now get funding for taking that particular application to production. So this, we actually can help you to be able to secure this and able to now set up that for your organization. The other bit is now around some of the applications this is very important for us to note. Like I said, Monivol is actually built on this particular platform. For NPOs, you get up to 10 users for free, right? So if you are an NPO and you have about 10 users and you want to now transition from Excel and start tracking your constituents, you start tracking your fundraising and all that now on a proper grade system, then this would be where you start from, right? You can get up to 10 users, and then any user after that is $250 USD per user per month. Then I told you about the other contextual applications that we get to do. So for example, if you have volunteers and all that, you might want to, if you want an out-of-the-box plug-and-play solution, then you probably would go with that customer service. You just come in and configure it to work the way you're looking at. Amos talked about Business Central, so there's an offering here. I think this goes for about $80 for the enterprise customer, so you're getting this at 32. And you're still getting the same level of, application and all the bells and whistles that come with it. So I think that is something good for us to look at. So these are some of the advantages that you can take. You can take advantage of from a Microsoft licensing perspective. So please feel free to reach out to us if you have not unlocked any of this particular, grants or any of these particular discounts. Please feel free to reach out to us so that we can help you kind of start utilizing that, because all these ones are given to you every single year. So let's make use of them. That is the advisory piece that we offer as Sibasi. We try and make sure that you get ROI on every technological infrastructure investment that you have as an organization. So for us, this is very important for you to know. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us on the numbers that have been given, or also in the chat here, and then we'll be able to help you out. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to share on Amos. Back to you.
Thanks. I see we have a few minutes. It says 5 minutes left. Thank you so much. I think this is our first engagement, more or less, webinar engagement that we're doing. Next week, as you mentioned, we are having a similar one, but this focused mainly on enterprises, governments, and businesses. We really appreciate you taking time and sitting through the 2 hours discussion. For those that gave feedback, you're rushing when take pause. Thank you so much. It has been engaging. We are hoping, in the upcoming sessions, we can get away that, all of us can get to talk. I know time itself is a bit of a challenge, but thank you so much for making the time. Thank you for the engagement. We are going to be sending over the deck, the presentation. We'll also send over the recording, and so that if you need to reshare, you have our contacts. You can reach out to us at any time, and we are happy to support you achieve your 2026 goals. Asante sana. I don't see any other chat. Asante sana, and wish you a fantastic day ahead. We catch up when we catch up. Asante.
Great. See you on the next one.